Vakratunda Mahakaya Suryakodi Shamaprabha Nirvigham Gurume Devo Sarvakayeshu Sarveda Saraswati Namastubhyam Varadhe Kamarupini Vidyarambam Karishyami Siddhir Bhavadu Mishada Suklam Baradaram Vishnum Sashivarnam Chaturbhujam Prasanna Vadanam Dhyaye Sharva Vigno Pashantaye. Now, salutations to Lord Hanuman. Wherever Ramayana is being read, wherever the names of Lord Rama is being chanted, we can feel his invisible presence. Yatra yatra Raghunama Kirtanam, Tatra tatra Krisamasta Kanchalim, Bashpavari Paripurna Lochanam, Marutihim Namatta Raksha Shantakam. Pujantam Rama Rameti, Maduram Maduraksharam, Aruhya Kavita Shakam, Vande Valmiki Kokilam. Jai Sri Ram to everybody. We have completed Ayodhya Kandam in our last session. Last session was session 11. Session 11 was a session that we have completed Ayodhya Kandam. You see, if you have gone through the Ayodhya Kanda, if you have read through the entire Ayodhya Kanda, you see this Kanda. Ayodhya Kanda is a Kanda that is full of drama and emotion. Okay, a lot of happening took place during the Ayodhya Kanda. So what are the things that we have covered in the Ayodhya Kanda? If you are looking into Ayodhya Kandam consists of 119 chapters. As I have said, Ayodhya Kandam is the third longest Kandam in Valmiki Ramayana. You have the longest one is Uttara Kandam, and then Yuddha Kandam, and then you will have Ayodhya Kandam. Ayodhya Kandam consists of 119 chapters. 119 chapters is started with the desire of King Dasaratha to coronate Rama. And then, of course, you had Mantara who came and intervened, poisoned the mind of Kaikeyi. Okay, and then Kaikeyi was requested by Mantara to request Dasaratha to give her the boons that he already have promised her during the Sambasura war. So chapters 7 to 14, all about Kaikeyi and Dasaratha's conversation. And then it was decided Rama had to go to the forest. So Rama's decision to leave for the forest consisting chapter 15 to 25. All the conversation that he had started with Sita, and then with his own mother, and then Lakshmana. So all the discussion about Dharma, and then Rama will also give a discourse on Sri Dharma to Kausalya, his own mother. And then with his, he tried to dissuade Sita from following him, but Sita was adamant she wanted to follow Rama. Lakshmana also wanted to follow Rama. And then Rama's departure from Ayodhya, from chapters 26 up to 40. And then after what we call leaving Ayodhya, Rama going into the forest, meeting with Guha, and then meeting with Sesh Bharadvaja. Okay, then Rama crosses the river, goes to Chitrakuta. And then at that time, when Rama was in the forest, Bharata had a dream. Bharata at that time was in the kingdom of Kekeya. Kekeya is his father-in-law, is Dasaratha's father-in-law's kingdom. And the grandfather of Bharata, from maternal grandfather, king of Kekeya, that is King Ashwapati. Bharata was there. So he dreamed that things are not going to go well because of the interpretation of his dream at that time. So at the same night, what happened was that Dasaratha passed away midnight on that particular day, particular night that the Dasaratha had the dream. And then there were efforts to appoint Bharata. So Vashishta requested the messengers to go immediately to kingdom of Kekeya to bring Bharata back to Ayodhya. But the messengers were informed not to inform Bharata that Rama has gone to the forest, nor the king has passed away. So the messenger carefully communicated the news, the message from Vashishta to Bharata. And then there were efforts to what you call appoint Bharata as the king, but Bharata refused. Bharata, and then of course you had the conversation between Bharata and Kaikeyi, and then Bharata with the assembly of sages and also the minister. Vashishta was adamant. Vashishta wanted to coronate Bharata because that was the promise given by Dasaratha to Kaikeyi. So Bharata was adamant. He wants to go to the forest in order to request Rama to come back to Ayodhya. So he decided to go to the forest. So on his way to meet Rama, he met Guha, and then after meeting Guha, he met Sage Bharadwaja, and then he went to Chitrakuta mountain, and Rama and Bharata met there. Bharata met Rama, and then there were a lot of conversation between Rama and Bharata, especially chapter 100. The conversation between Rama and Bharata was all about management, administration, and also how to govern a state or even a country. Okay, and then the conversation continues. Bharata was also adamant. He wants Rama to be back. If Rama is not going to be back in Ayodhya to become the king, Bharata said he is going to fast there. And then Bharata also said that he will take over Rama's place in the forest and let Rama go to Ayodhya and rule the kingdom. But it was not possible because Rama was also adamant. He wanted to fulfill the word of his father. So in Ayodhya Kanda, very important, the Rama, Pitruvakya Paripalanam, the words of the father needs to be protected. He gave various arguments why he should remain in the forest and Bharata should go back to Ayodhya. And then finally, when it was not possible to bring Rama back to Ayodhya, Bharata, with the help of Vashishta, the sandals of Rama was taken by Bharata, and then he took the sandals to Ayodhya, and then sandals was installed in Ayodhya. So what happened in Ayodhya at that time, after Dasaratha's Rajya, it was Paduka Rajya. Paduka, or the sandals of Rama, ruled the kingdom for 14 years. But of course, everything was done by Bharata, offering to the Paduka. Okay. So, and then after that, from chapter 115 to 119, Rama leaves Chitrakuta and going towards Dantakaranya, the forest of Dantaka. So on the way, Rama will meet various sages who mentioned to Rama that the Rakshasas always harassing them. And then before going to Dantaka forest, Rama, Sita, and Lakshmana will stop over at the ashram of Rishi Atri, Atri Muni, and the wife Anusuya. So there will be a discussion between Anusuya and Sita about Sri Dharma, and Sita will narrate to Anusuya about her marriage, and Anusuya will give a lot of ornaments and jewelries to Sita. Okay, and then Rama will continue his journey. So that's the end of Ayodhya Kandam. So as I said, Ayodhya Kandam is a Kandam that is full of drama and emotion. Started chapter 1 of Ayodhya Kanda, if you look at it, is all about again the qualities of Rama being narrated. And then after that, chapter 2, Dasarada's desire to coronate Rama and all that. Very long chapter, as I said. And the chapter chapter 100, the very important chapter, is all about governance. Okay, where anybody who wants to learn about leadership, governance of a country, governance of the state, okay, on politics, something related to Artha Sastra, you can look at the chapter 100 of Ayodhya Kanda. And the chapter 100 of Ayodhya Kanda is one particular chapter that needs to be researched by scholars in the field of management, leadership, or even somebody who is interested in learning about governance during the ancient time. Governance in ancient India, look at chapter 100. A lot of research needs to be done if you are going to look into within the context of a modern world. Okay, now that we have concluded Ayodhya Kandam. Ayodhya Kandam, as I said, is a very long Kandam with a lot of lessons that we can apply even today. All right. Now from Ayodhya Kandam, we are moving into Aranya Kandam. Aranya Kandam is a book of forest, Aranya. Something like Aranya Kandam. Aranya Kandam is in Srimad Valmiki Ramayana. We also have in Sri Mahabharatam, there is a book called Vana Parva. So the difference between the Mahabharata and Ramayana we call each book, it is called Kandas. Kandam, Kanda. Whereas in Mahabharata, it is called Parvas. So we have Mahabharata, starts with the first book is called Adi Parva, then Sabha Parva, Vana Parva. Vana Parva is a book of forests. Then Virada Parva, Udyoga Parva, Bhishma Parva, Drona Parva, Karna Parva, Salya, that is called under Parvas. Something similar to chapter 100 of Ayodhya Kanda, which is about management, leadership, and governance. In Mahabharata, there is a book called Shanti Parva and Anusashana Parva, which is also similar to chapter 100 of Ayodhya Kanda, where Bhishma will be narrating about governance, leadership, management, and governance to Yudhishthira. Okay, Bhishma. Bhishma will be lying in a bed of arrows. And then at that time, he was waiting for the sun to go to the northern direction and also waiting for Krishna to come. So at that time, Krishna requested Yudhishthira, who won the battle. Kurukshetra battle was won by the Pandavas. Of course, with heavy casualties. Millions of people were killed in the battle of Kurukshetra. So Yudhishthira was requested by Krishna. Krishna will take Yudhishthira and the Pandavas to go and meet Bhishma, so that Bhishma will impart some lessons, advice to Yudhishthira on how to govern a country, how to govern the kingdom. So what will happen is that Bhishma will be giving something on Artha Shastra, something about leadership, management, and governance to Yudhishthira. That is also quite a long narration by Bhishma to Yudhishthira. And of course, in the Mahabharata, you also have the Vishnu Sahasranama. It's also narrated in the Mahabharata by Bhishma. Okay, now back to Aranya Kanda. Aranya Kanda, the session that we are going to look at for this session, we are going to look up to chapters 1 to 20. Okay, chapter 1 starts with Rama, Sita and Lakshmana entering Dantakaranya, entering Dantaka forest. And then there will be confrontation with a demon called Virada. Okay, Virada will attack Rama and Lakshmana. Virada will take what he calls Sita, and then he will attack Rama and Lakshmana. Okay, later on we will also learn about the curse of Virada, who the Virada was what they call a Gandharva called Tumburu, who has been cursed. And then Virada will also give directions to Rama, go to the sage of Sarabanga. Later on, at the end of Aranyakanda, you will also have another demon, Rama, Lakshmana will be meeting, that is called Kabanda. Kabanda also will give directions to Rama and Lakshmana to go and to see Sabari, and then towards what they call Kishkinda to meet with Sugriva. Okay, so Virada starts with Virada. Virada, from Virada, we will end the Aranyakandam with another demon that is called Abanda. In between, you will be facing many others as well. Okay, after that, going into the sage hermitage of sage Sarabanga, and then approach of sages and hermits. In fact, the sages will surrender to Rama for protection. Okay, this is one of the Saranagati that you will be learning in Ramayana. One of the Saranagati. Ramayana have many Saranagatis. The first Saranagati in Ramayana is the surrender of the Devas to Vishnu to protect against the tyranny of Ravana. Okay, then Rama, after meeting with Sarabanga and also the sages, will meet another sage called Sutikshana. And then there will be a dialogue between Rama and sage Sutikshana. And then chapter 9, there will be a concern raised by Sita to Rama. Because Rama made a vow that he will kill the demons to protect his sages. So Sita was concerned, why do you need to kill the demons? Okay, so Rama will reply to Sita. It's a very interesting to look into how the wife should advise the husband and how the husband should reply to the wife in a right manner. And then it will go on with the stories of sages like sage Mandakarani and also sage Agastya. Agastya stories about how Agastya destroyed the two demons that is called Ilvala and Vatapi. Okay, Agastya digested Vatapi and killed Ilvala. And then Rama will enter into the hermitage of sage Agastya. Agastya will bestow weapons to Rama. And then sage Agastya will direct Rama to a place called Panchavati. So on the way to Panchavati, Rama will meet Jatayu. That is the first meeting, Jatayu. Okay, in the Panchavati, the description of Panchavati. And then Lakshmana's description of what they call Vasanta season. Surpanaga will enter into the story here. Surpanaga, Lakshmana will punish Surpanaga. Surpanaga will report to her brother Kara, and Rama eliminates Kara's demon up to chapter 20. Okay, these are the key areas that we are going to look at in session 12. Okay, some of the issues that to be explored, to be discussed in Aranyakanda. If you look into Aranyakanda in a nutshell, the entire Aranyakandam is about forest life. Rama meeting several stages in Dantakaranya from chapter 1 up to chapter 13, which of course includes Rama's meeting with the Virada. How Rama killed Virada, the demon Virada, will be narrated in chapter 2, chapter 3, chapter 4 of Aranyakandam. And then after that, chapter 14 up to chapter 13, meeting with Jatayu in Panchavati, and Rama eliminating Kara, Dushana, and several other demons. So first, the Kara sent 14 demons. Okay, Rama eliminated all 14 of them. And then he sent 14,000. And then Kara, Dushana, Trishara also went to fight with Rama. Rama eliminated all of them. And then, of course, from chapter 31 to 47, Ravana's meeting with Maricha. And then Maricha took the form of a golden deer. And then Ravana will kidnap Sita. And then Rama's great agony of the separation of Sita will be narrated from chapter 50 up to chapter 66. Rama also cried. He was also very emotional at the time, just like anyone else, because Rama was acting like a human being. Uh, he says in Valmiki Ramayana, Rama had to appear in form of a human. Only in form of a human, only as a human, he'll be able to destroy Ravana, because Ravana has a protection against the Devas, against everyone except humans and Vanaras. Okay, and then chapter 67 to 75, Rama's meeting with Kabanda. Before Kabanda, Jatayu, Kabanda, Savari, who will actually direct Rama's journey towards Kishinda. So these are the summary of the entire Aranyakandam, forest life. So we're going to look at Aranyakandam, looking into different types of people that we will see in Aranyakandam. Say in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 16. Anyone of you who are familiar with the Bhagavad Gita, if you look at chapter 16, there is a description between divine and demonic qualities. Divine people and demonic people. What are the characteristics? So if you are looking into Aranyakanda in terms of the characters, people with the divine qualities includes the sages such as Sarabanga, Sutikshana, Sudarshana, Agastya, Sabari, and Jatayu. And then you have another categories of people with a demonic mentality. Demonic mentality, we have Viradha, okay, Vatapi, Ilvala, Hara, Dushana, Surpanaka, Ayomuki, Maricha, Ravana, Kabanda, and all the Rakshasas. So why there are people who are divine and demonic? Sometimes we wonder, why do people have to be demonic? What makes them demonic? Why do people become demonic? Okay, if you are able to analyze Mahabharatam, Sri Mahabharatam, Duryodhana, there is a dialogue that between Krishna and Duryodhana. Duryodhana will tell Krishna, "Oh Krishna, I know what is dharma, and I know what is adharma." Okay, Duryodhana clearly say he knows what is dharma and he knows what is adharma, but I am unable to follow the path of dharma. But I am always inclined to follow the path of adharma. There is something within me that pushes me, that actually prevents me from doing dharma and motivates me to do adharma. So it is something like Duryodhana syndrome. There are sometimes we know what is wrong, but why are we doing that things that are wrong? So why do people become demonic, turn bad? Sometimes it can be due to past karma, past curse. We will be learning here the past curse of Tumburu, the Gandharva Tumburu who became Virada, and then Kabanda. Okay, and other reasons because we tend to be indisciplined on the account of selfishness. We know sometimes what is right, what is wrong, but yet we are not inclined to do the right things, but we are doing the unethical things. Other reasons can be wealth, can be physical strength, which drives them to be bad. Ravana, with his strength, he thought that he is the strongest and nobody can defeat him, nobody can kill him. He is almost immortal. Okay, based on the boon, he considered human and Vanaras are no match for him. Other reason is that wasteful spending of tapas energy on the account of bad values and intentions. We learned this from Ravana. Before Ravanas, in previous yuga, we learned about Hiranyakasipu. Hiranyakasipu did a great tapasya, and he got the boon from Brahma. Is almost invisible. He cannot be killed outside his palace, inside the palace, cannot be killed on the ground, on the air. He cannot be killed by any, so many, what he call, it's almost like he cannot be killed by anybody. So became proud of the strength. So sometimes due to the tapasya, and based on the tapasya, we take the based on the energy, wasteful spending of tapasya energy on bad values or intention. Okay, the other one is desire, driven by desire or karma or adharmic desire. So these some reasons, but what we need to look into is that when we know it is adharma, we should not be moving on the path of adharma. We don't have to be like Duryodhana. Duryodhana said he knows what is adharma, but he is unable to do dharma, go towards the path of dharma. He is more inclined towards adharma. This is directly he mentioned that to Krishna. You will find that in the Mahabharata, in Udyoga Parva Mahabharata. Okay, Duryodhana will say that. Okay, coming to Aranyakanda, the first chapter describes Rama entering the dense and fearsome forest named Dantaka forest, Dantakaranya. Yet in that forest, they beheld the hermitage of sages who had made the forest their abode. Rama approached them with reverence and humility, with his weapon unloaded. Meeting of the sages, you see, Rama is somebody who is very humble. We can see throughout Ramayana the character. Even when the time when he was wants to call Samudra Deva, he was very humble. He was doing tapasya. He was trying to call Samudra Deva. But when the Samudra Deva didn't appear after days, he was fasting, then he got angry. That's why there is one quality of Rama mentioned. It is mentioned that he is somebody who controls himself. Atmavanko, he says, Atmavanko jita krodo, dutimanko anusuyaka, asya bibyati devasya, jata roshasya samyuge. When he becomes angry, even the devas will take note. So that was happened. But he is, throughout Ramayana, if you study, he will maintain his humility. That is one of the quality that everyone needs to learn. So here Rama, okay, approach the sages. He was very humble. Sages to receive Rama, Lakshmana, and Sita with great joy and affection. And the sages lovingly and reverently said to Rama, "Oh Rama, you are our king. Whether you are in the city or in the forest, we are fit to be protected by you. The king is worshipful in as much as he is regarded as a part manifestation of God himself." I mentioned to you previous sessions as well, one of the sessions that the king is seen as a divine being. Okay, in those days, king are seen as a representative of the god. Okay, we see the king starting in Ishwaku. No, if it's before that, Manu, Ishwaku. Before Manu was Vivashwan. Bhagavad Gita in chapter 4, verse 1, it says, Imam Vivashvate Yogam Proktavam Avam Avyayam Vivashwan Manave Prabha Manu Rishwaku Bravit. Chapter 4, verse 1 says that in the beginning I spoke to Vivashwan, the sun god. Sun god spoke to Manu, Manu to Vishwaku. So those kings are seen as some divine being. Okay, even in a modern context, we have seen in some countries, kings are still seen as a divine being. Okay, here he says that we hermits have renounced violence and anger. So if you are doing tapasya, you should not be violent. You should not be angry. You have to be able to conquer your senses. Senses needs to be conquered. The enemy is not outside. The enemy is inside every one of us. Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Mada, Matsarya, all these are within us. Okay? And we are wholly devoted to the conquest of mind and senses. One of the session, the last session, if I'm not mistaken, I've shown you a model of a chariot from Katha Upanishad. Katha Upanishad mentions that the body of ours is like a chariot with the 5 senses, senses of seeing, senses of hearing, senses of touching. Okay, all the senses are like the horses. And the driving instrument is the mind. The rein is the mind. Okay, and charioteer is the intelligence. So one must be able to use the intelligence effectively to control the mind. Otherwise, the senses is going to take you into different direction. So mind, very important here. Conquest of the mind. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 6. Many verses there talks about how one should control the mind. Bhagavad Gita chapter 5, chapter 6, verse 5, chapter 6, verse 6 says that for one who's able to manage the mind can be his best friend. For one who's unable to manage his mind, the mind can be his worst enemy. So whether your mind is your good friend or whether your mind is your enemy is depend on how you are managing your mind. Okay. So here what we find is that the sages surrenders to Rama. Okay, they have surrendered to Rama. So that they want Rama to protect them against the harassment of all the demons, the Rakshasas. So Rama agreed to that. We will see one of the very important sloka in Ramayana in Yuddha-kandam comes when Vibhishana surrendered. Rama will promise that whoever he gives protection, he's vowed to give protection whoever surrenders. He will protect. Just like Krishna gives assurance to Arjuna in chapter 18, verse 66 of the Bhagavad Gita, where he says, Sarva dharma parityagya mam ekam saranam raja ham tvam sarva papebhyo moksha ishyami masutta. Abandon all sort of dharma and surrender to me. I will deliver you from all sinful reaction. Do not fear. Same, Rama will also say that. Sakrut eva prapannaya tavashmiti jayachate abhyam sarvaguptebhyo dadamyetat uttamama. This is where he will be saying in Yuddha-kanda to what they call during the time of Vibhishana Saranagati. It's my vow to give protection to whoever who surrenders to me. So the sages here surrendered to Rama. So Rama have given the word that he will protect the sages. Okay, so some of the things, if you look into the note from chapter 1, this particular chapter, on views on kingship, there are many Arthasastra. Arthasastra is something related to economics, politics. And one of the popular Arthasastra written in a 4th century BC, 4th century, 4th century before Christ, was an Arthasastra written by Kautilya. Kautilya is also known as Chanakya. Another name for Kautilya is also Vishnugupta. Vishnugupta, Chanakya, Kautilya, the same person. Okay, Chanakya has written a work on Arthashastra. He has also written a book on Chanakya Nidhi. So many works he has. His views on kingship. He said kings must have the best quality of head and heart. Head and heart in a modern context. Okay, it is intellectual question and emotional question. Intellectual, that means intellectually he has to be intelligent and also emotionally he has to be intelligent. So the entire Arthasastra is for a king to lead a country. As I said, the Arthasastra origin you can find in Ramayana. The session on chapter 100 of Ayodhya Kanda is also Arthasastra. Some of the concept from Arthasastra you can also find there. And then Bhishma's narration to what they call Yudhishthira, okay, in Santi Parva and Anshana Parva. There's also an Arthasastra. And then here Arthasastra by Kautilya. And in Kautilya's Arthasastra, he says, the foremost responsibility of the king is to protect the life and property of his subject. It is widely believed that the happiness of the king lies in the happiness of the subject. King is, people are happy, king is happy. Praja shuke shukam rajyam. So kings shouldn't be happy if the people are not very happy. So that's why king is seen as a divine person. Tirukural in Tamil, it is stated that முறை செய்து காப்பாற்றும் மன்னவன் மக்களுக்கு இறை என்று வைக்கப்படும், which means that a king who administers based on principles of justice will be seen like a divine being. And it is also said that the best king is Raja Rishi. Raja Rishi means a sage king. Raja Rishi is a king who has self-control and does not fall for any temptation of senses. And the greatest enemy of the king are not the kingdom outside, are not the other kings, but the six, what they call enemies within. Sat ripu, lust, anger, greed, conceit, arrogance, foolhardiness, and all that. So that is Chanakya's view of the kingship. Now, moving further, the next morning, Rama, Sita, and Lakshmana took leave of the sages, and proceeded on their way. The forest grew more and more formidable and awesome. Very soon, Rama saw a terrible demon in terrifying form. And this demon too saw Rama and Lakshmana and Sita, and he roared loud. The monster sprang towards Sita and took her. After running away to a distance, said to Rama and Lakshmana, I shall take this woman away and marry her. I, the demon Virata, shall destroy both of you sinners and drink your blood. And Sita was stricken with fear. Deeply distressed, Rama said to Lakshmana, Oh Lakshmana, what a tragedy at the very commencement of our forest life. So here, when people are in sorrow, in a depressed state, sometimes the words that they might come from their mouth, even Rama is not exempted from that. Rama is saying here, surely Mother Kaikeyi will be extremely pleased to hear that we have all been killed before we settle down in a forest. To me, there is nothing more tormenting than to see beloved Sita touched by another man. The brave Lakshmana consoled Rama with words, please do not worry, Rama. In few moments, the earth will drink this demon's blood. And later on, I will tell you that when Lakshmana was commenting about Kaikeyi, Rama quickly will tell Lakshmana, please do not say negative words or not so nice words about Kaikeyi. But here, when Rama was in a depressed state, even Rama, accidentally or what, the word from his mouth came that Kaikeyi will be extremely pleased to hear. Okay, now here, if you're looking at the note from Krishna Sharma from readramayana.org, some of his commentary, he said, Rama experienced loss after loss, and these losses created emptiness, making him emotionally unstable. So later on, when Rama will lose Sita, even worse for Rama, he will be depressed. Even Rama has gone through. Rama is somebody who is emotionally intelligent. But yet, okay, due to the tragedy people will go through, they will lament, will be very depressed. In this case, Rama also not exempted. So he was barred from the kingdom that has been part of his being since childhood, and this loss of it created a void and emptiness, a great magnitude in him. This is too much for anyone to take. It's an emotional toll that no one would wish, even for one's worst enemy. The only thing that is meaningful in his life now is the presence of Sita, his dear and loving wife, and the presence of his brother who guards him. Rama has no more emotional capacity to laugh, to take any more losses, any more emptiness, in such a state that he would simply collapse under even a hint of loss of either Sita or Lakshmana. So you see, even Rama has undergone suffering. Everyone goes through suffering to some extent. No one is exempted from any form of suffering. But look at Rama, how he was able, even though he was in a depressed situation, he was able to maintain his balance. Although he was crying, but yet he was able to maintain his balance. We will see throughout Ramayana how Rama has undergone all the trials and tribulations, but yet he was in a state of equanimity. Just like the sloka I even quote few times, Sukha dukkhe samakritva labhala po jaya jaya. The equanimity, very, very important. That's something that we can learn from life of Rama and Ramayana. Okay, then looking into the third chapter, we find that Virada, The monster roared again, "Hey, you two, tell me who you are, where you are going." Rama replied, "We belong to the famous Ishwaku dynasty. Please tell us who you are and what are you doing in the forest." Then the demon replied, "O noble king, I shall tell you who I am." So he will tell his history. Name of his father, Jiva, mother, Sataratha. Here I am known as Viratha. I satisfied Brahma, the creator, with my austerities and gain from him a boon that I shall be invulnerable to weapons, so I shall not die from broken limbs or injury. You can therefore not destroy me. Leave this woman and run away from here. Now, defying him, Rama struck him with several missiles. Though pierced by him, he did not die because of the boon given to him by Brahma. He, however, left Sita and ran towards the brother with a lance. Rama broke the lance with his own missiles. Virada caught hold of Rama and Lakshmana and lifting them up with one hand each and carried them away. Lakshmana tried to stop him, but Rama said, let him take us where he will. He is going in the same direction as we wish to." But Sita was horrified. She shouted to the demon, "Please, O best among demons, take me and throw me to the wild animals, but leave them." Hearing this, Rama and Lakshmana decided to dispose the demon. Sitting on his shoulders, they broke an arm of Virada. Rama said to Lakshmana, "O Lakshmana, he is protected by his food. We cannot kill him in this manner. Dig a pit in the ground. We shall bury him. And that is the only way he can meet his end." Later on, at the end of Haranyakanda, we will also see the same will be done for Kabanda. Okay. Now Virada spoke, "O Rama, I have been defeated by you, and my end is near. Due to demonical quality of ignorance, I did not recognize your glory." Tamasic quality is a quality, demonical quality. Everyone have to uplift ourselves. We need to grow from Tamashika quality to Sattvika quality. That's from Tamashik to Rajasic to Sattvik. We need to grow. That's why we say Asathoma Satgamaya, Tamashoma Jodirgamaya, Mitriurma, Amitrum Gamaya, Asat Toga, Asatho, Tamasho to Jodi. Tamasha is the demonic quality. That is the quality of ignorance that Virada was in. So Virada will tell his past. He was a celestial by the name of Tumburu, okay, but was cursed by Kubera to become a demon. So after he pleaded with Kubera, he said, Kubera will tell Tumburu, who have been turned into Virada, when Rama kills you in a fight, you will return to heaven. Now, released from that curse, I shall now return to heaven. This is what mentioned by Virada. Now he got back his original form as Tumburu. Okay. Over there lives sage Sarabanga. Kindly go to see him after burying me in this pit. Okay. For this is a time-honored way of dealing with demons. Lakshmana soon finished digging a huge pit into which they lowered the Virada. And then reunited with Sita, they proceeded on their course. So Rama, Lakshmana, and Sita continued. Okay. In the 5th chapter, we look at Rama said to Lakshmana. Okay, Rama will be describing to Lakshmana about the forest, Dantaka forest. This is truly a dreadful forest, O Lakshmana. Let us now go to the hermitage of sage Sarabanga. As the trio approached the hermitage of sage Sarabanga, as they were approaching the hermitage of sage Sarabanga, Rama beheld a marvel. He saw a radiant space vehicle which stood without touching the earth. In it, it was chief of gods, chief of the devas, called Indra. Indra himself was there. Indra was having a conversation with sage Sarabanga. and there are angels and sages were serving him in many ways. Rama looked at the marvel and then pointed this to Lakshmana and said, "Oh Lakshmana, look, see this wonder. Indra himself personally visiting sage Sarabanga. Look at these celestials who have also come with him. All of them have the appearance of a young man of 25 years of age. Indeed, I have heard the celestials are forever 25 years of age. Celestials, okay, why they are 25 years of age? Because it is stated in the Shastra, they drink the Amrita. Amrita doesn't mean that they will going to live forever. Okay, they will be, Amrita means they will not have disease, they will be eternally being young, they will always be healthy. That is Amrita. Because even drinking Amrita, the Indra also have this lifetime. They say that the Devas also have their lifetime. Upon completion of their lifetime, they will also have to go. So they are not eternal even after taking Amrita. Okay, how they got the Amrita? You will see the Amrita, the Samudra Manthan, the what they call churning of the ocean. Okay, when the Lord took Kurma Amrita, you have the Amrita, and then there are also you will learn about in Sri Mahabharata. We learn Garuda will go to the go and take the Amrita of the Devas. Indra will chase what they call Garuda. There will be Garuda was very strong. Indra took his thunderbolts and then will throw at Garuda. Garuda to respect the thunderbolt, the Vajrayudha, because the Vajrayudha of Indra was made from a backbone of a rishi called Dadichi Muni. A Muni called Dadichi sacrificed himself to become a weapon for Indra. From his backbone, the Vajrayudha of Indra was made. That Vajrayudha is the weapon that was used by Indra to kill the Asura. Okay, this is very important to look into the 25 years of age. 25, they are eternally, they say they are eternally young because of the Amrita, the nectar. So Rama will say, please stay here with Sita, I shall find out if it is in fact Indra. But when Rama went nearer to the hermitage, Indra said to the sage, Rama is coming. This is, however, not the right occasion for me to see him. I shall see him after he had killed the wicked Ravana in battle. Rama has to do great wonders here. I shall go now, and you too move from here to meet him. Indra's space vehicle rose into the sky. So Indra left the hermitage of sage Sarabanga. And then Rama with Lakshmana and Sita went to see sage Sarabanga. They both to sage Sarabanga. Out of curiosity, Rama inquired why sage Sarabanga visited his hermitage. The sage replied, O Rama, he came to take away to Brahmaloka, to higher realms called Brahmaloka, which is earned by my austerities. But knowing that you are in the neighborhood, I did not want to go to Brahmaloka without seeing you, O Rama, without serving you as a guest. Having seen you, O Rama, I shall ascend to the higher regions. I have earned them by dint of penance, and I humbly offer them to you, O Rama. Please be gracious to accept them. Deeply touched by the love and affection of the mighty sage Sarabanga, Rama replied, I can actually bring all those words to you, O sage, by kindly indicate a place in this forest for us to dwell. And sage Sarabanga replied, please, O Rama, go to the hermitage of sage Sutikshana, who will surely indicate where you can reside in this forest. After saying this, Rama was looking on. The sage kindled the sacred fire and entered into it. The fire consumed his physical body, And the sage then shone with lustre of fire and had a body of a young man of 25 years of age. He rose to Brahmaloka and was welcomed by the Creator Brahma. This is narrated in chapter 5 of the Aranyakanda of Srimad Valmiki Ramayana. And moving on to chapter 6, soon after the ascension to heaven of sage Sarabanga, sages and ascetic of the neighborhood called on Rama. They included Vaikhanashas, Valakilyas. The Valakilyas also you will find in Mahabharata, Garuda's journey, description about Garuda Lila, Garuda in Adi Parva. The Valakilya will also be mentioned there, was said to have sprung from the nails and the hairs of Creator Brahma. All were radiant with lustre of self-realization. They greeted Rama and said, "Oh, the king, O Lord, the king appropriate one-sixth of everyone's income in form of tax. In return, he should protect the people, treating them as his own children. If he does not, he incurs sin. The king has a fourth share in the spiritual wealth earned by the sages. In return, he should protect them. It is in this spirit we approach you, our king and protector." So here in this forest, there are many demons that terrorize sages and ascetics. Pray, protect us, please protect us from them. Rama gracefully replied at once, "Indeed I shall. It is surely for this purpose my noble father sent me to the forest." So if you look at the tax that we pay, something mentioned, it is also part of the Artha Sastra. And you will also have something from Mahabharata as well. And there is also in Raghuamsa of Kalidasa also mentioned something related to this. A king, a king who collects 1/6 of the produce as tax and yet does not protect his subject like a children commits an act of great injustice. Great papa if the king do not take care of the people, because the king collects the tax from the people. O Rama, whoever protects the inhabitants of his kingdom at all times like his own son, who he loves more than his own life, will attain the world of Brahma and remain there for long years and will achieve prosperity thereafter. The role of the king is given here again. Of course, the one mentioned earlier, 1/4 of the supreme merits a sage earns by living on fruits and roots goes to the king, which people are protected righteously. So these are some of the notes we have to look at, especially those who are ruling a kingdom, ruling a state. Okay, a lot of lessons, not only from chapter 100 from Valmiki Ramayana, but it's something that you will also find in Mahabharata and also in other sastras. This is a note from Sri Krishna Sharma in readramayana.org. She says that the people of bygone eras exerted moral pressures on rulers to do their job. Currently, whether rulers are doing their job, but at that time, rulers have a moral pressure from the people. And Shastras also says that it is a duty of the king to take care of the people. However, things have changed. In a democratic system, we vote a ruler out of power if he is not doing the right thing. But on the surface, it looks like a powerful option, but it is not. To remain in power, ruler does not have to focus on ruling better, but to only expand his vote bank. This is happening everywhere around the world. They bring emotional and sensational issues to expand the vote bank. Opposition also try to do the same. In other words, people in democracy become pawns at the hands of ruling party as well as the opposition, between whom the power alternates. One time they will rule and another time the other party rules. Okay, time and again people vote with hope, and time and again the party play on their emotion to secure their vote. This is a vicious cycle. So for politicians, usually unity of the people is not in a number one, it is only on a vote bank. For them to rule, they will have to do ways, divisive way, dividing people so that people are divided, just like the policies of the British policies, divide and rule. This is happening everywhere. So what some lessons here we learn from Ramayana earlier about the role of the king during those times. Okay, moving on. All right, chapter 7 here. Taking leave of the sages, Rama traveled onwards to the hermitage of sage Sutikshna. The sage was serenely seated in a meditation posture. Rama introduced himself. The sage gracefully replied, "O Rama, I have been waiting for your arrival. I have heard everything from Indra who visited me just now to announce that I could now ascend to higher worlds earned by my penance. On the strength of that penance, I pray that 3 of you may enjoy your life in the forest." Rama thereupon requested the sage to indicate a suitable dwelling area for him, place for him. The sage replied, "Stay in this hermitage itself. Except for deer, you will have no trouble from any creature." So sage Sutikshna already indicating to Rama, so you have to be careful with deer. Sometimes some message will come to us also. We don't bother, we just go and sometimes some way or other, certain signs, certain indication will come. So here directly it says Sutikshna is saying that except for deer, you will have no trouble from any other creature. But Rama submitted, "If I live here, it might be possible that I will kill a deer. That is would be extremely displeasing to you. Hence, I do not think I should settle here." Okay. Enjoying the hospitality of sage Sutikshna, the trio, Rama, Sita and Lakshmana, spent the night at the hermitage. Early next morning, Rama took leave of sage Sutikshna. "Lord, we have spent a blissful night in your holy company, enjoying your hospitality. It is time we move on before the sun gets too hot." Rama, Lakshmana, and Sita bowed to the sage, who in turn lifted them up and embraced them as a token of his blessing. He wished them well and requested them to return to his hermitage. Okay, now in chapter 9 is quite interesting. Chapter 9 and also chapter 10, there will be a discussion between Sita and Rama. Now, as they were marching into the depth of the forest, okay, Sita found an opportunity to lay her heart before Rama. She said to Rama, "Lord, you are well aware of what is dharma, what is adharma, and do not stand in need of any instruction." You do not need any instruction, O Lord, O Rama. However, I know that what appears to be a slight initial neglect often leads to gross violation of dharma. And Sita continues her advice. She said, "Adharma can only be avoided by one who is able to resist the painful effect of desire." A very important note if you look at Bhagavad Gita also says, it's a last desire. These are all needs to be controlled. Adharma, where is he? Take note of this word given by Sita to Rama. Adharma can only be avoided by one who is able to resist from painful effect of desire. These are 3. The most formidable is falsehood in speech, asatya. Not satya, asatya, no, falsehood in speech. Then adultery. And the 3rd is unprovoked cruelty. And she said, "Surely you are incapable of first 2. I am, however, worried that you may succumb to the 3rd. these ascetics have requested you to kill the demons who live in Dandaka forest, and you have agreed. I'm not quite happy about it. You are armed, and it is possible that you might kill someone without seriously meaning to do so. Okay, and then what will happen is that Sita will continue. Sorry. Sita will continue argument. She will tell a story to Rama. Oh Lord, I have heard the following story. In a certain forest lived an ascetic who was extremely peaceful, a very peaceful man to whom even birds and bees were unafraid. Very peaceful sage. Indra wanted to obstruct this holy man's penance. You see, Indra, wherever somebody is doing some form of tapasya, Indra will try to, what they call, disrupt the penance. Because Indra is a politician. He is always afraid. He's always feared that someone is going to doing some tapasya to take over his place. When Vishwamitra was doing tapasya, he was scared that Vishwamitra is going to take over his position. So when Sagara doing Ashwamedha Yajna, he was afraid that Sagara will take over his position. So Indra, like any other politician, will always have a fear that somebody else is going to, his position is always not stable. Somebody else is going to take over his position. Same also when Bali Maharaja, Mahabali was doing austerities. But the Lord promised Mahabali will be the next king in next Yuga, the Mahabali. Bali, which you will study in Bhagavata Purana, Srimad Bhagavatam. So Indra wanted to obstruct this holy man's penance. So in disguise of a warrior, Indra came to the ascetic, to the holy man, on some pretext, and left his sword with the ascetics and requested him to guard it while he was away. The soldier was away. Yes, the holy man was zealously guarding the sword and even took with him when he wandered to the forest. Now, to cut a long story short, after some time, the ascetic began to wield the sword, forgetting his vow of ahimsa, non-violence. So, keeping a lethal weapon is like playing with a fire. You see, this is very true. Sometimes when you keep a weapon and you keep seeing the weapon every time, the mind will, subconscious mind, consciously, or it will lead you towards using the weapon. So better not to keep any weapon, because sometimes, you see, indirectly it will push you. The mind is not something that, because when you see something, the mind directs towards things, towards that particular thing, it will direct you. Just like what happened to this sage. When he was keeping the sword that Indra, in the disguise of a soldier, left it at his ashram, so he was carrying the weapon, and then he started to use the weapon. So what Sita is telling Rama here is that, I'm anxious, Lord, that this should not happen to you. This is a contradiction in an ascetics carrying a weapon, in one who wishes to lead a forest life but behaves like a warrior. Handling a weapon pervades the mind. I'm sure your parents will be delighted if we adhere to a life of dharma, and adharma is not for pleasure seeker. Dharma leads to prosperity. Dharma itself leads to happiness. Everything is gained by dharma, and the world is established in dharma. However, it demands iron will and self-control in order to preserve dharma. Iron will and self-control. Similar sloka in terms of dharma in Mahabharata, in Karna Parva, a lot of dialogue, a lot of description about dharma is also, slokas related to dharma will also be there. In fact, some of the definition of dharma, dhara iti dharma, that which sustains, you will be able to find in Mahabharata. And Kautilya also in Chanakya Sutra also talks about dharma. This is very important part. Like Sita will say that dharma itself is a great happiness. He says that Sukhasya Moolam Dharma. Basis of happiness is dharma. So here Sita is advising Rama. Okay, if I want to give some note on this particular sloka here. This is the sloka. From dharma, artha emerge. From dharma alone, happiness arise. Let me recall the Chanakya Sutra. Sukhasya Moolam Dharma. Okay, basis of happiness is dharma. Second, he says Dharmasya Moolam Artha. The basis of what they call dharma is harta. Harta means the wealth. Arthasya Moolam Rajam. The basis of what they call harta is Rajam, kingdom or organization. Rajasya Moolam Indriya Jayaha. He says the basis of kingdom, Raja is Indriya Jaya, conquers of self. Okay, so here it says from dharma alone artha emerges, from dharma alone happiness arises, from dharma alone everything can be attained. Dharma is the essence in this world. And he further says smart people deliberately exhaust themselves by subjecting themselves to the various disciplines. Happiness cannot be achieved by taking things lightly. Oh gentleman, gentle one, keeping your mind pure all the time, please practice dharma in this vana of tapa, in the forest of tapa, doing tapasya. You know everything in that is to be known in 3 words. So here, Sita advising Rama. So here, after Sita's advice, how did Rama reacted to the advice? Very important to learn about how when someone advises you, how one should hear and how one should respond. Rama was delighted to hear that loving Sita righteous advice to him. He replied, surely Sita, you yourself are eager that no one in the forest of Dantaka should be subject to suffering. And that is my wish too. Sages and ascetic living here came to me. As a prince, I am their protector. They sought my refuge in me. Saranagati, they came. When they sought my presence, I volunteered to serve them and help them in whatever way I could. They then narrated how they have been harassed in various ways by the cannibalistic demons that dwell in the forest. They are holy brahmanas who are fit to be worshipped by us. Yet they came to me, O Sita, seeking my help. How could I refuse their prayer? Therefore, I granted their prayer. They are indeed capable of dealing with the demons themselves. They could destroy the demons by power of their asceticism, power of their tapasya. However, such action on their part would be a violation of a vow of austerity and would therefore destroy the fruits of their penance. Hence, they do not wish to undertake the task of punishing the wicked demons, and it is my duty to undertake the task. So, Rama continues, yes, considering all this, I have given my word that I shall protect them. Now I have given my word. I cannot go back as long as I am alive. So Rama will tell Sita, I can give up my life, give up Lakshmana, even you, my dear Sita, but I cannot abandon the word I have given to anyone, especially to holy brahmanas, sages, and ascetics. In Yuddhakanda, chapter 18, if I'm not mistaken, Vibhishana Saranagati, also you will find something similar. My vow to give protection to whoever who surrenders. Saranagati. So in a Sri Vaishnavism school of thought, they say Ramayana is a sastra of Saranagati. Every part of Ramayana leads to Sarana, surrender to Almighty, surrender to God, surrender to Lord Rama. Saranagati. Bhakti, Saranagati. Srimad Bhagavatam, it is more of a Bhakti Sastra. It's mostly Bhakti. Of course, you also have Saranagati in Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavata Purana. Okay, Saranagati is also there in Mahabharata. Many Saranagatis are there in Mahabharata. Ramayana, there are many also Saranagatis. You can go into list of Saranagatis, complete. Okay, so Rama says to Sita, "Have I made this clear to you, Sita? As a prince, it is my duty to protect people from evildoers. Hence, even without their request, I should offer them some protection. Now these ascetics have actually requested for protection and I have promised to do so. There is therefore no going back on this promise at any cost. I shall, however, bear in mind the wise words that you have uttered on the account of your great love for me. It is proper that you should so advise me, for you are really, truly my companion in Dharma. Saha Dharma Charini. Saha Dharma, your companion in Dharma. Thus speaking to each other, Rama and Sita proceeded towards the hermitage of sage Dandaga forest. Sages of Dandaga forest. See, something that we can learn from Rama. Before we communicate, very important to really careful how do we communicate. How Sita communicated, if you are able to reflect, if you are able to read this chapter, I suggest you can read the chapter 9 and also chapter 10, looking at how husband and wife communicates. Okay, wife had a concern, okay, concern that the husband might do some activity that is inclined towards that is going towards adharma. So she advised the husband. Husband gave his perspective why he's doing it, because of the vow that he has taken. And he also said it is proper that you, as the wife, as a companion, advise me. Okay, so this is very important for a lesson for every one of us to always, before we say something, Ramayana teaches us. Okay, that is why what makes this is a commentary from Krishna Sharma. What makes Rama great? It's not the only things that he did, such as giving up the kingdom to make his father man of his word, or killing Ravana later on, the Rakshasa, to relieve the world from suffering. But also the little thing he did in such a way, he conducted himself with everyone in every situation. Sita in previous sarga advised Rama out of love and respect. How should Rama react? First of all, he did not disregard her words. Sometimes some people will insult, but not Rama. Rama did not disregard her words. He neither insulted her for being incoherent or chided her for being timid, nor did he ridicule her for speaking that way, being the daughter of great King Janaka. So what Rama did? Rather, he appreciated her concern. So you have to always, whoever gives advice to you, appreciate the concern. Okay, people in general don't like to hear advice. Especially in this case, Rama is hearing from his own wife. Rather, appreciate the advice, acknowledge her love and asserted his own love for her. Okay, then in a clear terms, he explained why he has to do what he has to do. That is to be Rama. So that is why very important before we communicate to anybody, to wife, to even husband, to any other people, we have to always, very important, this is something that I would like to tell people, before we say something, or before, sometimes it is not now what we are saying, but what we are typing sometimes. Before we type any message, we send any message, before we say something, it is said that we must always connect the tongue to the brain, or even connect our fingers to the brain before we type, because wrong word, wrong saying, wrong things that we send will have negative consequences. We must always think of repercussion of our action. What will be the implication of our action? So we learn from Rama, somebody who is emotionally intelligent, who are able to like connect. Rama is said to be somebody who is careful in his words. Later on, we will also learn that even Hanuman was also very careful with his words. Hanuman. So there will be one particular chapter in Kishkinda where Rama will tell Lakshmana how Hanuman communicates, how we should communicate like Hanuman. In this case, Sita giving advice to Rama, okay, that he should not simply take the weapon, just like the story that she has narrated. So Rama answered Sita. Okay, so very, very important to note the way that we communicate. Look at chapter 9 and chapter 10. Chapter 9 about Sita's advice to Rama, and chapter 10 on how Rama communicated to Sita. Okay, then as we go on looking into this chapter 11, chapter 11 will be a bit longer chapter, but I will go to chapter 11, but overview of chapter 11. In chapter 11, some important things for us to note that Rama spent in the hermitage of Munis for 10 years. Okay, 10 years of forest life will be gone. After that, towards the end of the forest, Surpanaka will come, and then the Sita will be taken away by Ravana towards the end, not in the beginning. Okay, so in chapter 11, looking into chapter 11, Rama walked ahead, Sita followed, and Lakshmana came behind. So in Ayodhya Kanda, Lakshmana was in front, and then Sita was in the middle, and then Rama was at the back. So here it's a Rama walked ahead. At times it will change. Okay, here Rama walked ahead. As Rama came near the lake, he heard delightful music from the lake itself. He could not see anyone there. Puzzled at the extraordinary phenomenon, he asked a sage called Dharmabrata, who happened to be with the party at that time, to tell him more about the lake. And the sage narrated to Rama the following story. Rama, this lake was actually created by a renowned ascetic, purely by the power of his penance. That sage was known as Mandakarni. Mandakarni, who performed these austerities in this lake, living on air for a great number of years. Even the gods were perturbed. They thought he wanted to take their powers. In order to divert his attention from penance, the gods, of course, you know whom, Indra, commissioned a select band of 5 apsaras. These apsaras came to the spot. Although the sage knew the truth, he fell in love with them. And as it were, for the fulfillment of the purpose of God, he then created a huge lake within this very lake, in which he still lives with those 5 apsaras. So hence this lake is known as Panchapsara, 5 apsaras. The music that you heard is actually music of these apsaras. So this was narrated by sage Dharmabrata to Rama. And then Rama marveled at the power of penance. He wandered in the forest, visiting one hermitage after another, spending few weeks in one, few months in another, enjoying the company, the hospitality of the sages in the forest. As he was thus wandering happily in the forest along with Sita and Lakshmana, 10 years went by. So remember, 10 years went by. Once again he came to sage Sutikshana and spent some months in his company. And one day, Rama said to Sutikshana, Holy One, I have heard famous sage Agastya live in this forest. Please tell me how we can reach that hermitage. I wish to meet him. Sutikshana replied, in fact, Rama, I myself going to ask you to meet Sage Agastya along with Sita and Lakshmana. Luckily, you yourself have expressed the same wish. So Sage Sutikshna then explained to Rama in great detail how to reach the hermitage of Sage Agastya. Okay, and said, if you wish to meet Sage Agastya, let us go today itself. Rama, Lakshmana and Sita surrounded the place by lofty mountains and dense forests. The pungent smell of pippali fruits confirmed that the site mentioned by Sutikshana was close. The hermitage of his brother of Sage Agastya, that is Sudarshana, was near. So at that stage, Rama narrated the story of Agastya to Lakshmana. As they were traveling, Rama will narrate the story of Agastya to Lakshmana. There's a very interesting story Rama will tell Agastya. The story about the two demons inhabited these parts in the days of yore. They were Vatapi and Ilvala. Ilvala used to disguise himself as a Brahmana and spoke in a cultured dialect. He attracted the attention of the Brahmana, the sages, and they will invite him for a Sraddha rite of the departed ancestors. He would nicely cook his elder brother Vatapi. Vatapi is another demon. So what they do is that Vatapi will disguise as a ram, like a goat, a ram, and Ilvala will cook Vatapi and will serve. Will cook Vatapi means Vatapi will be in form of a ram, will be a goat, and then the meat will be served to the Brahmanas in accordance to the injunction of the rites. When they have eaten the meat, he will call out, Vatapi, come out. Vatapi, come out. Then what Vatapi will do is that Vatapi will tear the bodies of the Brahmana and emerge. And the gods prayed to Sage Agastya to put an end of this atrocity. Agastya volunteered himself to eat at the Ilvala's house. And after the usual meal, Ilvala will call out, Vatapi, come out! Vatapi, come out! But Agastya serenely said, how can Vatapi come out? He had been digested by me. The furious Ilvala thereupon attacked Agastya, who deprived him of life by a mere look. Okay, that is a story connected to Sage Agastya. Okay, therefore, after the destruction of Vatapi and Ilvala, O Lakshmana, this southern region of the country prospered. Soon they reached the hermitage of a brother of Agastya. Okay, warmly received by him, Rama spent the evening there. Next day, he said to Agastya, brother, I wish to meet your illustriate brother. So taking leave of him, the tree proceeded towards the hermitage of Sage Agastya. Rama pointed out to Lakshmana, see, O Lakshmana, this prosperous countryside. All this is due to the grace of Sage Agastya. Since he has rid the country of the demons, people live here happily, free from fear. Even people of demonic disposition has become peaceful, peace-loving. Sometimes the environment that you live also will determine our disposition in the environment. This is due to the grace of Sage Agastya. Such is his spiritual powers that no sinful man can live in southern region now. Agastya is said to be one of the creator of a language. Tamil language was said to be created by Sage Agastya. As he was saying, they live in the hermitage of Sage Agastya. Rama sent Lakshmana to inform of the arrival. So Lakshmana will go to the disciple of Sage Agastya and he will announce, Rama, son of King Dasaratha, has arrived here along with Sita and me, his servant. Okay. He awaits the pleasure of Sage Agastya to meet him. As Rama entered the sanctuary, Sage Agastya himself came forward to meet Rama. Rama, Lakshmana and Sita bowed to the feet of Sage Agastya and stood with folded arms. The sage joyfully inquired their welfare and made them to sit down in order that he might offer them water to wash their feet, hands and feet, and food to eat. And he said to Rama, this is a sacred duty of an ascetic, Rama. He should offer worship to the sacred fire and offer water and food to the guests, or else he incurs a great sin. Fruit of which he will have to eat his own flesh in another world. So that's why this is about Atiti Devo Bhavo. Atiti means RTT. Titi means day. RTT means one who comes without inform. RTT. Titi the day. So one have to offer something. And even you are not able to offer anything also, at least a water should be offered. Even if water is not offered, even a place to sit also needs to be offered to the guests. Okay. Immediately after they have finished their meal, Agastya brought several rare weapons, missiles, and presented to Rama. All of these are fashioned by celestial engineer Vishwakarma. See, an Amsha of Vishwakarma called Nala will come in form of a Vanara to assist Rama. Nala is the one who will build the bridge to cross to Lanka. One has been used by Lord Vishnu himself, another by Brahma, yet another by Mahendra. After explaining their glories, the sage gave all to Rama. So you remember that Agastya himself will come and tell Rama will teach Rama about Haditya Hridaya, worship of sun, before killing Ravana, during the time when he was fighting with Ravana. That we will find in Yuddha Kanda of Ramayana. And the sage said to Rama, I am delighted that you came to see me. I see that all of you are extremely tired after a long journey. Sita needs some rest too. I am thrilled that she accompanies you. Okay, something that will be mentioned by Agastya. She mentions that women are usually fickle-minded and they disown even a husband who has lost his portion. They say that a woman combines in herself the flippancy of the lightning and the destructive sharpness of a weapon and the speed of a bird. But this wife of you, O Rama, is free from all these blemishes. Indeed, she is praiseworthy and ranks with great women like Arundhati. Arundhati is a wife of Vashishta. Okay, Rama was happy that he, his brother and Sita enjoyed the esteem of the mighty sage. He prayed, Lord, kindly indicate a place where we can build a hermitage and spend the rest of the period of our exile. Rest of the period, we have few more years, 4 more years. After meeting, at the time when Rama was meeting Agastya, already more than 10 years had passed. The sage therefore replied, Rama, there is a place called Panchavati, not far from here. That is a place best for you to settle, to spend the balance of your exile. Of course, I know already all that have happened in Ayodhya through intuition. I think Sita will feel happy to live in Panchavati, near river Godavari. Okay, earlier they live in near Chitrakuta, Mandakini. Now going towards Panchavati is a Godavari. Living there, you can fulfill that promise given by your father and also offer protection to the weak and helpless sages and ascetics. So now Rama, Lakshmana and Sita proceeding towards Panchavati. On the way, they saw a huge vulture. The vulture said, Jatayu, I'm your father's friend. Maybe in some session I will tell this how Jatayu, maybe not this session, okay? Trusting the vulture's words, Rama asked for a detail of his births and ancestry. Okay, vulture, now very detailed explanation actually will be given by Jatayu about creation. The vulture will say, you know that Daksha Prajapati had 60 daughters and Sage Kashyapa married 8 of them. Very detailed actually. Jatayu will be narrating about how the owls were created, how the vultures were created, the eagles were created, the other birds were created, all will be narrated. You can read the chapter 14 of Aranyakanda. Okay, you know, okay. One day Kashyapa said to their wife, you will give birth to offspring who will be foremost in the three worlds. You will be talking, he will be narrating about Aditi, Diti, Danu, Kalaka. Listen attentively, and others were indifferent. So he will tell his own history. Okay, of others, men were born from Manu, subhumans from other wives of Kashyapa. Tamara's daughters was Suki, whose granddaughter was Vinata. From Vinata, Garuda and Aruna was born. Garuda and Aruna. Okay, Kasyapa's wife, Vinata. Kasyapa's other wife, you have many wives actually, Kasyapa, Diti, Aditi, and then Vinata, and also Kadru. From Kadru, the serpents were born. From Vinata, Garuda and Aruna. Aruna was born earlier, okay, because Kadru have already had child. Vinata was very anxious. Okay, she broke the egg. Aruna was not fully formed. Aruna actually deformed up to Aru. From the body onwards only he is fit. But Aruna was taken as a charioteer of the sun god. Okay, Surya, charioteer of the Surya. Morning when you see sunrise, red color, they say that's Aruna. Garuda later came and he released his mother Vinata from the slavery of Kadru. That's another story you will find in Mahabharata. Okay. Now Jatayu is telling that his brother Sampati and him was son of Aruna. I offer services to you, O Rama. If you will be pleased, accept them. I shall guard Sita when you and Lakshmana be away from your hermitage. As you have seen, this formidable forest is full of wild animals and demons. Rama accepted this new friendship. All of them now proceeded towards Panchavati in search of suitable place for the hermitage. So here, if you read this sarga, now I'm taking the notes from Krishna Sharma. If you are looking into chapter 14, it is all about description about various legend of how living beings came into being. Okay, even sub-human beings. Okay, about how the four varnas. Now, to mention about varnas here, you find Bhagavad Gita also mentioned in chapter 4, verse 14. Chaturvarnyam maya shastram guna karma vibhagashaha, created by Krishna. 4 divisions of labor I have created according to their guna and karma. Okay, guna means qualities and work. Purusha Shukta also mentions about it. So this is, and then narration in chapter 14. I go a bit quickly because I know the time is close. Having arrived in Panchavati, identified by Rama by description of sage Agastya given, Rama will tell Lakshmana, please select a suitable place to build a hermitage, ashram. So it should be a charming forest, good water, firewood, flowers, holy grass. Lakshmana submitted, even if we live together for 100 years, I shall continue to be your servants, your servant. Hence, Lord, you select the place and I shall do the needful. Rejoicing at Lakshmana's attitude, Rama pointed out a suitable place which was satisfied by all the prerequisite of the what they call hermitage. Rama said, this holy ground, this is charming. It is frequented by beasts and birds. We shall dwell here. Immediately Rama set a building, a hermitage for all of them to live in. Rama warmly embraced Lakshmana and said, I am delighted by your good work, O Lakshmana, and your devoted service. I embrace you in token of such admiration. Brother, you are divine wish from my heart. You are full of gratitude. You know Dharma. With such man as his son, father is not dead, but eternally alive. Entering the hermitage, Rama, Lakshmana, and Sita dwell with the great joy. As time rolled on, Lakshmana sought the presence of Rama in the morning, describe what he has seen outside. This is all description. This chapter will be more about a description of the forest, description of the environment outside the hermitage. He said the winter season, that the season that you love most at life, there is a dry, cold everywhere. Earth is covered by food grains. The farmer who offers the first fruits to the God is cleared from the sin. Okay, when you plant a tree, if the tree, if there is a fruit from the tree, the first fruit you should not eat. It is said you should offer to the God the first fruit that comes from the tree. This is also mentioned in Ramayana. It is said in the, I have learned this long ago, but when you read the Ramayana, you will come across this particular verse that the farmer who offers the first fruit to the God is free from the sin. The first fruit that comes from the tree or even the plants, offer it first, but you should not consume it. The sun moves towards the southern hemisphere. The north looks lustrous. It is indeed, it is pleasant to walk even at noon. Early in the morning, the earth, which is rich wheat and barley fields, is enveloped by mist. Even so, the rice crops, the sun, even when it rises, looks soft, cool like the moon. Even elephants, which approach the water, touch it with its trunk, but they pull the trunk quickly because of the coolness of the water. So in chapter 16, he further says that, Rama, my mind naturally thinks of our beloved brother Bharata. Even in this cold winter, he could command the luxury of a king, prefers to sleep on floor and live an ascetic life. What a noble man. He knows what dharma is. He speaks the truth. He is modest and self-controls. Always speaks pleasantly. He is sweet-nurtured with long arms, with all his enemies fully subdued, internal enemies. That noble Bharata has given up all the pleasures and devoted to you. He has already won a place in heaven, O Rama. Though he lives in a city, he has adopted an ascetic mode of life, follows you in spirit. Here, Lakshmana is highly praising Bharata. Lakshmana is praising Bharata in this particular chapter. Now, Lakshmana continues, we have heard that a son takes after his mother in nature, but in the case of Bharata, this has proven false. I wonder how Kaikeyi, in spite of having our father as a husband and Bharata as a son, turned to be so cruel. When Lakshmana said this, Rama immediately stopped him. See, Kaikeyi actually loved Rama so much. But you know why Kaikeyi became, and like what happened to Kaikeyi is because of bad company, because of bad association. Her mind was poisoned by Mantara. So when Bharata said that, quickly Rama stopped him and said, do not speak ill of our mother Kaikeyi, Lakshmana. Talk only about our beloved Bharata. Talk positive words. Don't think about negative. Even though I try not to think of Ayodhya people there, but when I think of Bharata, I wish to see him. So sometimes when we are communicating, there are people whom we communicate will start to see things in a negative perspective, will start to say negative words about other people. The best is that to avoid. Immediately say, do not say anything negative if you know, unless if it is really true. Do not speak ill about Mother Kaikeyi. This particular sloka, Rama is telling Lakshmana, talk only positive words. This is what I recall from one particular research. Barbara Fredrickson says that sometimes we think about something, negative things comes to our mind. But if we increase the positive feeling, positive thinking more than negativity, at least the ratio of 3 to 1, the negative impact will not have negativity will not impact us in our mind and also our feeling. So the negative thoughts will not have any impact when we start to increase the positive thoughts more in terms of the ratio to the negative, at least 3 positive to 1 negative. I can elaborate more on this, but due to our time, let me move on. We have 3 more chapters. In chapter 17, after the morning prayers, Rama, Lakshmana, and Sita returned to their hermitage. They were seated. There arrived a dreadful demoness. Surpanaka's episode is coming here. She looked at Rama and immediately fell in love with Rama. So there will be a description of Surpanaka and Rama by Valmiki. So Valmiki will narrate, he had a lovable form, she had a terrible form. He was young, she was haughty. He was a noble conduct, she was of a evil conduct. He was beloved, she has a forbidden appearance. So she was a long description by Valmiki here about two Rama and also Surpanaka here. Such a demoness spoke to Rama. Who are you, young man, and what are you doing in this forest with this lady? And Rama, as usual, will tell the whole story about himself, Lakshmana and Sita. Okay, if you want to know the detail, again, you can read the chapter 17. And Rama asked her, oh, charming lady, now tell me who you are. At once the demoness replied, ah, Rama, I shall tell you myself immediately. I am Surpanaka, the sister of Ravana. I'm sure you have heard of him. His twin brothers, other brothers, Kumbhakarna, Vibhishana. See, when she was narrating about, she will be narrating about Kumbhakarna, she will be narrating about Ravana. When she was narrating about Vibhishana, she said, Vibhishana, Dharmatma, the one who is different than the others. So you can read that particular sloka about how she narrated. She introduced Vibhishana. Okay. That's why Rama knew something about Vibhishana earlier, before the Vibhishana surrender later. And Rama also listened to Hanuman before Vibhishana surrender in Yuddhakanda, in chapter 18 of Yuddhakanda. So two of my brothers, Khara and Dushana, live in this neighborhood here. The moment I saw you, oh Rama, I fell in love with you. What have you to do with this ugly Sita? Marry me. Both of us shall roam the forest. Do not worry about Sita or Lakshmana. I shall swallow them in a moment. This was what mentioned by Surpanaka. But Rama said to her, you see, my wife is here with me. Why don't you go and propose to my brother Lakshmana, whose wife is not here? Now Surpanaka immediately turned to Lakshmana and said, it's all right. You please marry me. We shall roam the forest happily. He was tormented by passion. Rama said in a teasing, Lakshmana said in a teasing mode, oh lady, you see that I am only the slave of Rama and Sita. Why do you choose to be a wife of a slave? You will only be a servant maid. Persuade Rama to marry you. They are just joking here. Actually, Rama and Lakshmana in this context here. Surpanaka then turned to Rama. He said, unable to give up your wife of yours, Sita, you turn down my offer. See, I shall at once swallow her. So saying, she actually rushed towards Sita. Rama stopped her in time and said to Lakshmana, what are you doing, Lakshmana? It is not right to jest with this cruel and unworthy person. Look at the plight of Sita. She barely escaped with her life. Come quickly, deform this demoness and send her away. Sita sent her away. Lakshmana then drew his sword and quickly cut off the nose and ears of Surpanaka. Weeping and bleeding, she ran away. She went to her brother Khara and fell down in front of him. The demon Khara was distressed to see his sister Surpanaka fallen unconscious in front of him, bleeding from the wounds to her nose and her ears inflicted by Lakshmana. And Khara, in great anger, said, whose work is this, oh sister? If you yourself are powerful, which foolish person has done this stupid action, thus inviting speedy death at my hands? Surely not even Indra would dare to offend me. Surpanaka, tell me, who is it that elected to die at my hands today? Surpanaka regained consciousness and said to Khara, today I saw in a forest two young, handsome, powerful men who had eyes resembling lotus petals, who are living on fruits and roots like ascetics, who are devoted to self-control and austerities. They are the sons of King Dasaratha and are known as Rama and Lakshmana. Along with them, I saw beautiful young men decked with jewels. And this is the result. Brother, you do me a great favor. If you have them killed, I wish to drink the blood. So now the last chapter for today's session. Terribly enraged, Kara ordered 14 of his demonical warriors. First they sent 14. When the 14 got killed, later he will send 14,000 of them. That will come in a later chapters. First, when Kara ordered 14 of his warriors, he said, 2 men have dared to enter into Dandaka forest. Go and kill them. Kill also the woman who were with them. Let Surpanaka, let her drink the blood of these humans. The 14 demons, accompanied by Surpanaka, immediately proceeded to where Rama lived. They saw Rama, and Rama saw them too. He said to Lakshmana, look after Sita, Lakshmana. I shall quickly deal with this demon and return. Rama said to the demons, we are ascetics who live here on fruits and roots. Why do you thus harass her? Also bear in mind, requested by sages and ascetics who are constantly tormented by you. We are here to just like you. The demons replied, having provoked our great leader Kara, you have surely forfeited your life. See, with this, our weapons, we shall kill you in no time. Saying so, they rushed towards Rama with their lances and swords uplifted. Rama cut those weapons down with his own missiles. Then he shot with 14 blunt missiles, which pierced their hearts, and they fell down dead. Horrified to see this quick work, Surpanaka quickly ran to Kara. So that we have completed up to chapter 20 of Aranyakanda. Okay, in this session 12, we started Aranyakanda. Before we started Aranyakanda, we looked at Ayodhya Kanda, the Kanda that we have completed the last session. In Aranyakanda, we can also learn many lessons, not many lessons. Now for session 1, the session 12, there are quite a number of lessons that you can note down. Especially you can note down those lessons from chapter 9 and chapter 10. Sita's advice to Rama and how Rama replied. And also about those lessons related to Lakshmana dialogue to Rama about Bharata, and then he was criticizing Kaikeyi, and then how Rama quickly intervened and then told Lakshmana, don't never talk bad. If you have something good to say good things about other people. Do not say anything bad about other people, and plus other lessons as well. Okay. That actually we have concluded session 12. Okay. Sri Rama Rama Rameti Rame Rame Manorame Sahasra Rama Tatulyam Ramanama Varanane. Okay. Thank you to everybody. And that we have completed session 12.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
We will be moving
Thank
to
you, sir.
session 13 next week. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.